Chapter 1. The Peterhof Fountain Restoration Project will cost millions. Donations for the families of those killed during the explosion have helped to ease the burden of the pain and loss. But the memory of that terrible day remains in the minds and hearts of those closest to this tragedy. Mrs. Morris turned off the overhead television in the corner of the history classroom. "Terrorism exists in all parts of the world," she began. "Those responsible for these bombings have one agenda in mind, and the victims of the explosions are considered collateral damage. What do you think of terrorists, their agenda, and collateral damage? Rome?" I stared blankly at the reflective black television screen, not meeting her eyes. Fatigue had lulled me into a stupor as we watched the same news report that I had already seen 100 times. I rolled my pencil between my thumb and forefinger. Collateral damage is a euphemism for killing people during combat. It's the adverse side effect of an action that's meant to be good or moral. Terrorists do not have collateral damage. Their entire goal is to kill people. When I finally looked at her, a heated flush had crept over her face. I truly didn't mean to antagonize her, but I couldn't let that one slide. One girl cleared her throat in the back row, suppressing a giggle. I fought the urge to get up and walk out of the classroom. "Well, I see what you're saying, but tell me more about terrorism in history." "That wasn't your original question, but okay." Rubbing my eyes tiredly, I glanced at the clock. The Reign of Terror in France, 1793 to 1794, right after the French Revolution, was the first notable evidence of what we call terrorism today. Enemies of the revolution were sent to the guillotine. "Yes," she clipped with a nod, my attitude obviously pushing her buttons. "Good. So, how would you handle this terrorism situation in Russia?" I shrugged, shifting uncomfortably in my seat. It was the last day of school before Thanksgiving break, and I just wanted the day to end. It was one random act. No one knows for sure if it was a terrorist attack or what the attack was about. When I get a job with the Russian Ministry of Defense, I'll let you know my ideas." Mrs. Morris's round face turned beet red. The class snickered, and in hushed tones I heard the words, "mood swing," followed by more whispers. Self-consciously, I straightened in my seat, lifting my chin. The rumor that I was pregnant was still in its infantile stages, but obviously the information was making its rounds at Madison High. "I need to be excused," I managed, swiping my backpack from the floor with one hand. The walk from my desk to the door took seconds, but with 17 sets of eyes on me, it felt like hours before I turned the knob. Mrs. Morris ignored me, continuing the discussion of her opinions of history. "This is a history class. Timelines, events, dates. Don't bore me with your opinions. I won't bore you with mine. Just facts." West's voice crept into my thoughts unannounced, and I grabbed for the water fountain to keep from doubling over. I resisted the urge to cover my heart, the physical ache all-encompassing. Losing my mother to breast cancer had broken my heart, but as time passed, the healing process had allowed me to move forward and not cry with every memory of her. Losing West brought up regular, unexpected torrents of pain to my chest, and the heartache, combined with morning sickness, had me rushing to the girls' restroom to vomit. I closed the toilet lid and sat down, grateful for the empty bathroom. Hugging my backpack securely, I thought back over the past 2 months. The night of my first doctor's appointment, I had called Logan after drafting and redrafting a text to him 50 times. Finally, I deleted the text and pulled up his number. Before I lost my nerve, I hit call. He answered in one ring. "This is Logan." "Hi." My voice cracked, and I silently chastised myself for the lack of control. "It's, me. It's Rome." "How did it go?" he asked. He sounded distracted as though he was driving. "I am. Pregnant, I mean." It wasn't until the crawling lightning vines invaded my vision that I realized I was holding my breath. Counting to 10, I breathed deeply, waiting for him to speak. "Well, that's good, right? We have this whole damn world to save, so take care of yourself," he finally said. "How are you feeling?" he asked, and I was taken off guard by his sudden, genuine concern. "I'm just tired. Really, really tired, I admitted. Eating? I have to. The doctor said that I'm underweight. No kidding. His sarcasm was clipped, and I heard him open and shut the car door. Well, we need to talk about some details. Want to go to dinner tonight? Stunned, I struggled to speak. Sure. Where? I'll pick you up. Just be ready at 7, okay? Okay. That evening, he'd taken me to a local restaurant minutes from West's empty house. The stone facade of the winery was lit in a traditional Tuscan style against a large man-made lake. The water features and fountains in the lake created spraying arcs behind the terrace where we were seated. I got a job, finally, he added. I had no idea that he was even looking for a job. I stared at Logan as though he was a stranger. Really? Where? After school and weekends, at Strike. Strike was an indoor batting cage less than 20 minutes from Madison. My coach let me know that they were hiring. When it starts to snow, it gets pretty busy. Congratulations, I said awkwardly, knowing that he intended for most of his paycheck to go to the tiny black bubble on the ultrasound snapshot. Yeah. We ordered, and I chose my favorite Alfredo pasta. How is everything? I asked, fiddling with the hem of my shirt. He sat back, his dark brown eyes catching the candlelight from our table. You know, busy. I wanted to talk to you about everything. Like I said, I want to make sure that you know I'll take care of the bills. I don't want your dad doing it, and I don't want him thinking I'm not taking care of my responsibilities. I flushed, swallowing hard. But it's not your responsibility, Logan. West, he stared at me, coldly, his eyes turning a shade closer to black. I lost the ability to form words. I don't want to talk about him. At all. Understand? I clamped my fingers together. What do you want to talk about? Why are we here? I demanded. His face softened. I wanted to know how you would feel about us dating. I sat back, stunned. The waiter brought us our dinner at that moment, leaving Logan's words hanging in the air. I picked up my fork and began to twist the pasta nervously in the tines. My stomach edged on queasy. When the waiter finally left, I lifted my eyes. Logan, I thought you were done with me. He stared at me blankly for a moment before the color left his face. Oh, no, Cam, I meant dating other people. At that point, the steam rising from the white Alfredo sauce, once at the top of my list of favorite foods, saturated my nose. I gagged, unable to suppress the bile rising in my esophagus. Oh, I have to go. No, don't run. Rome, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. No, I covered my mouth and ran for the barrier along the lake. Everyone on the terrace turned as I threw up over the railing. Logan was at my side in seconds, guarding me from the disgusted gasps around me. He rubbed his hand over my back. Are you okay? It's the pasta. It's making me sick. You love Alfredo pasta. Not anymore, I managed to whisper, breathing deeply. The crisp early autumn air helped calm my churning insides. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to leave. Here, I said, somehow making it back to the table for my purse. I rummaged inside for the $20 bill I brought. I have to go. I'm not taking that, Rome. I drove. I'll leave too. Just hold on. No, I don't want to go with you, I cried. The tears threatened, but my pride beat them back down into their ducts where they belonged. I dropped the 20 to the table and rushed to the door, running by the time I reached the parking lot. My house was over 10 miles away, but I couldn't imagine getting into Logan's car and listening to him talk about dating other people. I knew Abby Lawrence was already vying for his attention, and I was sure that Logan had her on his mind. He eventually caught up with me, not far from the restaurant. Get in, he ordered, slamming on his brakes next to me, or I'm going to follow you the whole way home. I obliged, far too tired to walk any further. The ride back to my house was silent. Finally, as he pulled into my driveway, I turned to him. Date whoever you want, Logan. If West was still here, I would be with him. The atmosphere inside his Camry turned to ice. He reached across me and opened the door, careful not to touch my stomach. His face was inches from mine. He said nothing. I waited a second before pushing the door open, getting out, and going into the house. I hadn't spoken